Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of the SIFAS ending journal. And today we're gonna take a look at the school idols / member list menu. You can also access from practice, so I'm gonna do it from here. So in this menu you are going to be able to see all your cards. I like to sort them by obtained most of the times. That way I know like what is my newest thing and all of that. So these are like my latest things, and I have 727 cards. I don't know how many in total there are, but if we scroll all the way to the bottom, let them load, you'll see that my very first ones are the Rs, I suppose. I mean, by default you have all of the Rs of the 27 initial girls. They give them to you. Additionally, they gave you the SR of the partner that you chose when you first launched the game. So that's why this is my first card. And from there on out you had to build your inventory, so scouting pretty much. As you can see, this is what I got. My first UR, my first couple of URs were the event ones here, until I got this Hanayo, because I just didn't get lucky on the pools. But well, we're not here to talk about that. I want to talk about pretty much everything here. So let's start off with like the filters. There are plenty of filters that you can utilize, and they even added more through the years. So you can sort by the rarities, you can select several, or by default it selects everything. Rarities, attributes, types, health, insight, skills. You can like see here which cards are missing any of their skills, or which ones have 4 would be only limited ones. You can sort by groups, by years. If partner, yes, no. Wait, can I do this? Oh, okay, so there's this little thing where you can mark them as partners. I have actually never used this, wow. I didn't know about that. And then there's these like practice log tiles, but this one is not that really good, because you can like click here and it does sort everything. Oh, but it doesn't actually tell you. Oh no, yeah. No, actually never mind. I don't know how this one works. Some of those are weird. Then you have the second tab with filter skill ability. It allows you to do like a more broad search, but there's still more ways that this can branch down, so it's not that great. I don't really think I've ever really used this, to be honest. In fact, I think this menu, or at least most of these features, may be not so old. They may have been something added a few months ago. And then sort, by default is level, so it will show the highest levels at the top. Then rarity, and it will actually take, so if I go level, it will sort them by level but also by order, and the order is first the school, and they have an internal order. So let me go down to like the level 82 ones, because that's a better way to see them. So the orders like Honoka, Eli, Kotori, Umibo, inside their own schools they have an order, and after the first condition is met they will go in that order, and in school and then member. So like by level, of course I have I level 90, so they're all here. Then go the 84 ones. You can sort by rarity, appeal, so this is like by specific stats. So for example, appeal, I'm gonna get my most powerful cards scoring wise, which are these ones. Wow, I can't believe that this Hanmaru is actually still at the top. I mean, you have my eyes here, which aren't necessarily profiled for scoring. I mean, this one's pretty strong considering it's an SP type. I'll get into that in a little bit. You can do the same for stamina technique. You can sort them by the skill that they have, and the game will try their best into organizing them. So increase critical power, critical percent, okay, stuff like that. Ability, that's like their LSAs and their passives. Insight skill, wow, I've never actually tried to do this one. I think this one sorts them by how many they have. Is that right? Oh no, in this what insights they have. But that is really weird, and I have no idea what these letters even mean. DC? I have no idea what that is. Skill level, ability level, well, okay, so you can do a school idol name. Obtained, which is, as I said, the order that you got them, and you can sort them by ascending or descending. So I like having my most recent ones up top. That's the one that I used by default. School idol number. I think this sorts them by the order of card. Yup, order of card by ID in the game. So as you can see, I have these ones here. So the total amount of cards should be about 9, less than 915. I think it should be. That got added in total in the game, huh? Good to know. And then bond level. Well, that's dumb. Because that depends on the member, so it's again just sorting by members. 300. Oh no, wait, like the level or bond level. I see. Yeah, I misunderstood that. Locked tiles. Okay, this is the one that tries to show you if it has locked stuff, but I don't think it works that well. Like, it doesn't really help you find the ones that you want. Well, I mean, it shows how many they have locked, so almost everyone. Whereas here it's 0 because they are maxed. Okay, let's just leave that one out of the place for now. And let's talk mainly about attribute stuff, so or types, sorry. So let's talk about voltage type cards, and I do have some helpful information here to aid me on this. Let's do it by level rather. So there is 4 types of no, there's 4 types in the game, yeah. And so here they are, and most of the times the cards that are under an attribute fall under an archetype, and they have roughly similar stat distributions in total, but not always. There are some that sometimes break the rules, but okay. So voltage types, these ones tend to have a higher appeal stat than any of their other stats. Of course, they are supposed to be the scoring ones. The most common skills were actually, I was seeing, and overall they only really have one skill. No, sorry, a few skills only. The things that differ are like the LSAs and stuff like that. Actually, let me just click on this one so we can see better. So the types of skills that I usually have are getting voltage based on a percent of their appeal, or increasing the voltage gain by some percentage, either by some duration or something like that. So for example, this eye right here, you can see her skill, it's called Ready to Hang Out With Me. So every idol has a different named skill, but well, the effect is just increases voltage gain by 72% for 5 notes. Affects all. This activates with a 33% chance because it's a new R. The activation chance of the skill depends on the rarity. So for URs tends to be 33%. However, there are some URs that they designing to have a more stronger percentage amount on their skill, but as a trade-off, they only gave them 11% activation chance, and they are horrible. Like, straight up, those cards are terrible. It doesn't matter if they have good stats. 11% activation rate is nothing. Like, it's just so bad, and I do not recommend them at all. I got a couple of them, and I even thought of building one once, but no, I didn't even commit to it. But that's her skill, and there are others that gain a specific amount of voltage. Maybe I'll show it now. Since we're here, so every card has a name. This one is called I Want Time Alone With You, but if you toggle them when they are idolized, Schoolgirl Heartthrob. So they have like names depending of their version. For the SRs, because they have costume sets, so it's just gonna be that. As I said, they have a name of their skill, and there's different, and we'll go over this later. Well, actually, yeah. So they have a skill, and they have also an ability which contains a passive skill, and then a show skill, or what it's commonly known as LSA or live show skill. So this one tends to be different stuff, and again, most of the times they fall under the roles of the type of card. So in case of this one, it increases the appeal by 8.2%, and the activation condition is when an appeal chance succeeds, and there's a 50% chance when that happens, and it affects the same attribute. So overall, it's not a really good skill, but oh well. So that's what she has, and she has a passive which is appeal plus for the same attribute, and the effect is 5.2%. because it's level 5, so these ones change as they level up. There are tiles on their practice trees, which we'll see later, that can increase this. The LSA is about the same, and this one, the skill also does increases. Now you can see their stats here. Usually this is because they get bonuses because of bond board or some other stuff, or no, like because of the insights. So I have talked about insights already on my training video. So I have some M attributes and M strategies here. So in total she's getting an 8% boost to her own stats and also to other cards. So that 8% is represented here, and the actual amount of appeal is going to be 18,000 something, sorry. That's what this is. In this card you can see like their costume, so you can have like the 3D model of the costume here. My recording crashed, so I'm just showing this in pictures. You can also see the animation of when you would scout for them, so you can see it there in case you skipped, for instance, so you can see it there. Okay, you can click this to see the full art. I don't think I've used it all that much. Here's where you can partner them. As I said, I don't really think I've used this much, honestly. And this is the toggle to toggle in between the unidolized or idolized art. Sometimes some people like one more than the other, so I like this one, for example, better like that. And from down here you can actually see the side episodes of that they have. So you are up to one for the idolized and unidolized version. You can read them from here straight. You don't have to look them in the partner screen. But yeah, so that's what this is. And as I said, going back to the main topic, voltage cards, their types of skills tend to be that one, which increases the effectiveness of the appeal that you're getting, or for example Cannon here, which gains 42% of her own appeal as voltage. And again, this happens, their skills can activate every time that they tap, and normally it's a 32% for URs. Maybe we'll see the rest of them later. For example, this one, I'm sure that this one is an 11%. Yeah, there is, so 11% chance, but usually it's a bit higher, the amounts that they give, than what they normally would have been. But the trade-off is not worth it. They are really bad, honestly. Do not recommend them at all. Anyway, so that is the voltage cards. Let's move on to the next one, which is, well, I ordered it like this, guard. So guard cards are mainly focused on healing, therefore their highest stat tends to be the stamina. The skills that they possess tend to be restores a percentage of their stamina as health, so in this case this one. Also this same thing but with shields, so shields build a shield, but if you have already taken damage and like say are already in yellow health, a shield is not going to get you back up to that. It will only prevent from incoming damage before it reaches your actual stamina. So it's important to know when you should use a shielder or not. It depends on the song or the situation. And the other type of skill that guard types have are damage reduction, or DR for short. Like this one, reduce stamina damage by 44% for 2 notes. So the only thing that this does is when they activate, they decrease the amount of damage that you take. Every time that you tap a note you get some damage, so it's not like it's really useful on that, and in fact it was a useless skill for a lot of time. It was only until they started introducing incredibly high amounts of damage in songs from notes or from like ACs, where these cards started seeing some use. And even then I don't even think that was such a good thing, because these cards only do that. They normally are really low on their appealing things, so don't even think that one of them is gonna be a front line. So it's annoying that they forced us to use them, but in reality we're just losing slots on our teams. Pretty much that. Something to note here, I guess it's worth mentioning. Sometimes there are cards that are denominated HP sticks, which is probably like some of the highest amounts of stamina that you can get, and you would usually put this in songs if you were struggling and you were dying or taking a lot of damage. If you put some extra padding in there, it could work. So for example, because of all my heavy bondboard investment, this eye has 19,000 HP or stamina, sorry. Of course, because she's fully max LB here and my bondboard investment, so she has a lot of, so In a few cases where I needed HP stick, I would use her. If I wasn't healing with her already, of course. I think it happened sometimes, but I mean, HP sticks were more common before when we didn't bother using damage reduction ones. But when the damage became so severe that we had to do that, then yeah, we did that. Anyway, that's it for guard cards. The next type of card that we have is SP. SP cards, as their type suggests, are centered around the SP mechanic, which I don't actually know if it means anything, it's just SP. The skills that they tend to have are gain a percentage of the SP bar, that's what we call SP fillers. So for example, this one, the most common one is that it's 9% at level 5, so gain 9% of max SP as SP gauge. So you know that the gauge fills down here, so when this skill activates I get 9% of that bar. And the amounts, because there are actual amounts, it's like something that you have to fill in with numbers, but this one always gives you the percentages. The other type of skill that it has is to increase the rate to what that thing grows. So let me find an example. For example, here fills the rate that SP fills. So SP gain increases by 5.6%. So like this. So I'm gonna gain 5.6 times more SP from tapping whenever this skill activates and the 10 notes are active. This even includes SP fill, for example. So if I activate this and then I SP get my skill for SP filler from the eye that I had, it's not gonna be just a 9%, it's gonna be multiplied by this further. And normally this is just by the taps. It's not that good of a skill, but in some songs it may have its use, but mainly combined with SP fill. But overall SP fill was just better, and that's a whole other topic because SP dominated the scoring meta for a while, but that's for the scoring video. And then the third type of skills that they have is what we call SP pumping, which is pretty much increases the amount of voltage. So here it is, voltage gain from the next XP skill increases by 32% of phone appeal. So pretty much what this does is it calculates this amount and it adds that amount into the pool of what you are going to score on the SP skill. And that value, it's calculated by, I think, the technique and the appeal of your center strategy or something like that. I don't have the specifics, but this skill is only useful if A, you're playing regular songs and you don't have the stats enough to get to the maximum amount, which is 250,000 a pop. It's useful there. Otherwise, if you do have that, then it's useless, but it works also on expert songs because the limit is 500,000 and it is not that easy to actually reach that just with skills alone. In fact, it's pretty hard. So this works, and there are certain songs where you may need that. And that's for SP. And then we move to skill type, which is a weird one because sometimes skill type also tends to have technique. Oh, did I not mention that SP cards tend to have technique as their highest stat mostly, where the same happens for skill types. But the thing is, not always, and sometimes you can have wild cards as SK types. It happens a lot, honestly, and the other types can also have wild cards, even stuff that does completely different things from what they're supposed to, like healers that don't heal that much but instead are more focused on scoring. That can happen. There are several cases. But the thing is, SK is like the one that doesn't really have a defined identity, and it can be whatever. The most common skills that this one got were increases the skill activation percentage, increases the critical percent, or increases the critical power, so how much score you actually get from a crit. But like the skill activation ones, that skill sucks, because if you are if you're going for scoring, if you want to use them on a front line, you don't want that. The critical percentage ones, maybe, but that's only really useful on expert songs, so the card needs to be really good for that skill to work. And critical power, same actually. Well, actually, maybe the critical percentage is not that much, mainly critical power, but the thing is, most of the best SK type cards aren't even that. Because a lot of them are, for example, aggressive healers. So this is an SK healer that has a good stat line that benefits it being a scoring card, even though it doesn't have like the numbers that a regular voltage would have. It has good stats to do that. Which one other? Mari is the same. These ones, for instance, this one increases the critical power. Yep. The thing is, this one has an LSA that cap breaks, so that's what's good for her. Oh, I guess since we're here, so sometimes this didn't happen at the beginning, but Fest Cannon started it, that you can have double passives at times. So like this one, she has a double passive, which is good. If we go into Fest Cannon even, let me find her. I think it's Fest Cannon was like the culmination of power creep, and I'll show you why. When she released, she had overpowered stats. It had, for the card of its profile, a good skill, which is voltage generation out of her own stats. And it had a double passive, and then it actually had a triple passive because the LSA was given as 100% activation, 2.5 boost to the appeal. So it was like they started giving like these double passives and also LSAs as passives, and Fest Cannon combined everything, and that's why she was so broken. But yeah, I don't really know if I should talk too much about the LSAs. Let me see what I can find. I mean, sometimes they're good. Here briefly I wanted to talk a little bit about the cards that don't quite fit the role that I mentioned briefly. I'm sure there's many more, but here's a few examples. So the first one is a healer that doesn't actually heal. This is Initial LEUR, the bowling one, which has more of an offensive stat line. And unfortunately, she, even at max LB, it doesn't really heal that much, like 3000 or something, even on attribute. But it works a little bit of a scorer if you are lacking a scorer for pure. The next one is Potty Cannon, which is an skill type. As I said, these ones are sometimes wildcards, but this one's straight up just like a voltage card in disguise. She has the profile of a really strong scorer. Her problem is that she has 11% activation, so that's terrible. And finally, SP cards that actually heal. So there aren't that many of these, and I even talk about this card later on, but I don't know why I forgot to mention it there. But this Rina right here, she's an SP card that actually heals. I do believe it was the first one. I believe there's some SP shielders out there, but healers as well, and they can be useful because SP is a much better type than Guard because it boosts SP generation, so it helps on that, and sometimes it goes well with some other SP strategies. But yeah, those are some examples of cards that don't exactly do what they're supposed to. I guess I can talk about unique LSAs. So for example, I showed you the Ruby, which had cap breaking, which allows her to go above the cap of the regular one. There are some other ones here that have SP overcharge. This skill is not so common. I don't even know if we managed to get a card of each attribute with it, so it was rare. But pretty much this allows you to, when you fill the SP gauge, to continue filling it again. And if you manage to fill it a second time, so to 100%, you will get 30% more score when you use the SP skill. So this is useless on regular lives, so up to advanced, because the cap still is at 250, and it's not like you're gonna go above 250,000. Rather, what this does is, if you by default can't reach the cap, it will get you more. So this is actually good on expert songs, because if you fill your SP gauge and then you continue to fill it more, you can get a higher score. Say I can score 300,000 with an SP pop by calculating my stats, but I need 310,000. But if I do this SP overcharge, I can get that amount that I need and do it in a single pop. If not, I would need 2 SP pops. In order to activate, you do need to be on attribute of the song. However, you can use them as guests in any card, and that will apply. But for example, if I needed to overcharge on a natural song, I would use this one. FSI 3 has it for cool attribute. There are some others that are like that. Let's see, an interesting one. This one, which is a damage reduction card, has a very useful, I mean, she's one of the most useful but tricky damage reduction cards, because she reduces almost 50%. Well, I think it's 50% when you max LB her. but only for 2 notes. But so it's meant to be used in critical moments, but you also need her to activate. But her LSA is what sets her apart, oops, because it allows you to, again, reduce by another 44% the next note after you switch your strategies. Only up to 2 times. So normally this is used when you have like a really high damage note coming. You will switch to another strategy before it taps, and when you tap it, it will be damage reduced. Unfortunately, if you need to get back to your main strategy, you are going to be wasting the second activation of it. But yeah, there are some other cards that have a bit of a less percentage, but that same effect, and they allow you to do it for more times in the live show. So combining them actually does help. Okay, this one's rather broken. So the one that this one has is that when she SP pops, the skill activation rate increases. And there are several cards with this skill, so when you put them all together in a single strategy, it almost takes you to the maximum amount of skill activation percentage, which I think is 75%. You can't actually reach 100% skill activation rate. Unfortunate. It would be too broken, I guess, so they left it at 75% at most. Well, actually, it's not even 15% because it's like it multiplies it, so you never actually, it doesn't go from 33 to 47, I think. 48, no, it goes to like 30 something or 40 something because they just multiply like 15, I don't know. It's something weird because they did something weird when calculating skill activation percentages. But I think that's almost everything. Like, I didn't really prepare this part. I mean, there are some varied effects, but some of them are just extensions of what the usual roles can do. Okay, maybe I'll mention Cleanse. Cleanse is an important one, and it's not just an LSA one. It can be many. So for example, this Kazumi has it. Negate all lowering effects. Does not include base effects. So this is what we call Cleanse. It removes the negative effects as long as they don't say that they are the base. So for example, this one increases the base appeal. So by default, you're gonna get an appeal boost by using this type of card. And for example, this increases appeal by 5% for 5 notes. This is a temporary buff. And just like this, there are temporary debuffs. And even some songs enforce them by default. And what this cleanse does is that it gets rid of them. So in the early songs, they had regular debuffs that stayed throughout the entire song, normally if you didn't match the attribute. So you could cleanse them with this. But I think the developers caught on and they said, oh, never mind, we're gonna decrease the base stats now and not just a debuff that stays through the song. And those ones are harder and you can't remove them, so the best way around them is just to use on-attribute stuff. But I'm getting a little bit out of topic, that's a topic for another video. But Cleanse is also an important skill. Let me see if I can find anything interesting. Okay, here's another one. This is SIFAS LE2. She is a shielder and a really excellent one at that. But as I said, oh, shielder can leave you a little bit vulnerable. Well, this one has a little bit of a fix, because her LSA restores stamina on her own crit, 100% of chances. So she can actually regain health. Even if you drop to yellow, she can get you back up to green if she crits, which is good. That is really good. Hanamaru, first Hanamaru 1 has something similar, but she heals. No, actually, yeah, it's the same thing. We have, for example, one that I've mentioned sometimes before, which is this Rina. Her LSA is that she gains SP 10% of her own appeal as SP gauge on a song start, 30% chance. So whatever this is, she can get it as the SP bar, and this helps in some songs where you need an SP skill really early, and usually you're not able to feel it even if you have 3 speed fillers in a strategy. Something like this really helps. Well, there are many types of other ones, but I can't really think of too many at the moment, so I'm gonna leave it at that for now. I think I pretty much explained the overalls of this. As I said, you access the menu from this. You can do school idols and practice. They're both almost the same. It's just that if you go to the school idols menu and you click on one, it tells you to discard itself. Whereas if you go to the practice one and you click on one, like so, it takes you to the actual practice. But if you hold it here, or if you hold it in the other screen, then it takes you to the same thing. So they're kind of redundant to have two, but that's how it works. Not gonna question it. Before we leave, I did wanted to showcase something else. Something that I hadn't shown yet, which is how you LB them and all of that. So the practice here. So you have this card. It's an SR for the purposes. So I have unlocked her tiles up to LB1. So in this one you get some stats, you get her costume, you get the skill to level 3 because it's ready for you get the study, voice line ability, insight, and most of them are and at the end idolize. I'm pretty sure that when you idolize them you get a little bit of stats. Like if you get up until here and then you idolize them, you get a little bit of stats, and of course when you idolize them is when they get their other art. And after that you need to limit break them to unlock the rest. So this is how an SR looks. Okay, and here's where you limit break them, so you use radiance for these or wishes. So right now I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna unlock all of the trees here for this SRI. When it limit breaks, you get a new route has been unlocked. The max spawn level has increased. So if you got a new R and a limit break on an R, it was +1 level. But most players max those quickly because the R's are what you get all the time. For an SR is 2 and for a new R is 3. So I'm gonna do that again 2 more times. Okay. And then here you can train her. So if you go to any tile, it will go and tell you what you need to get up until that point. Or if you have no resources, you can just auto-unlock and it will auto-unlock everything. It's gonna tell you here what you're gonna unlock, the changes in the stats, and the materials that it's going to consume. I'm pretty sure I have enough, so I'm just gonna unlock everything. And then here you get some rewards. So when you get the notes necessary to reach LB1, which says here, it's 40 notes I believe, you get 10 star gems. When you get the notes necessary to reach LB3, you get another 10. Well, this is on an SR, I think there may be more in URs, I'm not certain. And when you get every single tile, you get an additional 20 gems. So in total you can get 40 gems out of full training any card. And if you're ever short on gems, try to do this. In fact, something that people did often is that they would max all of the Rs and then they would continue with the SRs. What I did was I would wait until I got a full SR and I would unlock those. Because if I did it like with every single one, I would run out of resources because I wasn't swimming in them like I am now. Of course, it's because the game's ending, so I spent into getting some materials. But yeah, that's how that goes. And I wanted to show this here. You can also level them here, but this one was already much level, so meh. Like most of the stats are gonna come from the actual tiles themselves. Like, let me show you an example. For instance, this one, for example, this is an SR that I have fully unlocked to get the gems, but I never leveled it up. And if I level it up, yeah, it gains some stats, but look that most of them came from the tiles, so that's the point that I was trying to make. But anyway, I think that's it. So yeah, I didn't mention the LSAs. There are some like revive you, for instance, but they were generally tied to like their proper types. And I can't spend, I think I've already talked for a lot of time here, and I can't spend more trying to detail like every single skill that ever existed. But I think overall that's what I wanted to say about this section. So I think that's it. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna leave the playlist here on the screen so you can check out the other topics. And for now, video is over.